TSA had a mandate in the beginning, and the way we met it was really quite phenomenal. It was a wonderful group of people who were gathered by John McGaw. We sat in very close quarters across desks from one another as we planned what turned out to be the largest mobilization since World War II of a civilian agency. We had a statutory mandate to federalize screening at 450 locations within the United States. We needed to hire screeners who would be working for the TSA administrator. It was a massive undertaking.
I thought that by joining this new federal agency, which didn't have a name yet, it was still part of the Department of Transportation, I said maybe I can do my part in a small way and contribute to whatever I can do to help.
We did the training at the FAA Academy in Oklahoma City, and we wrote a lot of the training as we went along because they asked us for feedback. Do you think this is going to work? Do you think this is not going to work? You know, we were looking at pat-down procedures, how you operate the X-ray machine. So it was really interesting to go through training, but also be part of writing the training that would be used for other classes.
I had taken the image test 7 times because they were trying to get it the right way. I had taken the knowledge test about 5 times so they could figure out how to make it work. Because at the very beginning, they're just trying to figure out, how do we test? How do we gauge what a security officer should do?
We were thinking about what we needed to achieve at the very beginning. What were we going to be focusing on? What was our goal? And it was very clear that we didn't want another 9/11. And everything we did to operationalize the law in support of that mission was the focus of our day.
When you're dealing with the first group that had to break ground for TSA, and no one really knew what the role was supposed to be. I mean, we all went to airports before TSA. You just walked through. So we were writing the rules as we were running.
They were a little stressful at the beginning. You know, you're in a new place, living at a hotel, you know, making new friends on the job, working 7 days a week, 10, 12-hour shifts.
When I first came on board, were things perfect? No. I wasn't paid for like 2 or 3 months. Uniforms didn't quite fit.
But we understood the mission. We worked the checkpoint, and we also did gate screening, and we had to make sure everything was safe. That was the whole point of us taking the job.
It was a very big job to transfer what was being done at these locations by the private sector to a federal workforce. And the lawyers were instrumental in getting that done within the statutory deadline of 12 months, an extraordinary deadline which the agency met.
When I first came on board, when I was in Oklahoma City, when I first went to Baltimore, getting up early in the morning, leaving late at night, being shipped all over the place, opening up airports, places I've never been to, being tired. If there's any underlying thing I could say, is that I believe. And what I mean by believe is that I believe in what I did. I believe in the mission. I believe in those people right now that are doing the job right now. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here now, when you stand on the shoulders of giants.
So, good morning. My name is Chris Murgy. I'm the Federal Security Director here at BWI. And to officially begin our ceremony, please rise for the posting of our colors by our local TSA Honor Guard, led by Thomas Stein. So welcome, distinguished guests, fellow colleagues. It's my honor and distinct pleasure to be your MC for this special occasion, the 20th anniversary of the first federalized airport, BWI. I too started my career 20 years ago with TSA in a smaller airport in Allentown, Pennsylvania. In fact, I started on the front lines as a lead transportation security officer. Of course, back then, we were called transportation security screeners. Things were very different back in the early stages of TSA. For one, the agency fell under the umbrella of the Department of Transportation, not the Department of Homeland Security. We wore uniforms, but not like today's professional style. Then we dressed in black or blue pants with a stark white shirt with a patch of a badge that was embroidered onto our shirts. And I can tell you, for those who have been here for the 20 years, that white shirt was not easy to keep clean. My training consisted of many screeners huddled around one X-ray operator, looking over the shoulders, in between arms, or over top of heads to learn X-ray functionalities and operations. Many of the functions we did were learned in this fashion. And I believe this is where the term was dubbed thousands standing around. Our technology was much of the past, which consisted of black and white X-rays, along with aging walk-through metal detectors, handheld metal detectors that picked up the rebar in the floors instead of potentially dangerous weapons. We literally had pods of explosive trace detection machines in front of the ticket counters, and they basically took up the whole section of where folks would check in their baggage. And that was our explosive trace detection at the time. Once obtained, our explosive detection system machines were housed in terminal lobbies, which were the sizes of minivans. Airports across the nation lost a lot of real estate with this operation. Our pat-down procedures were mostly ineffective, more of a light dusting as opposed to our procedures today, which enhanced our detection capabilities. In our infancy stages, we utilized a vetting system owned by the air carriers, which was first used back in the late 1990s, which was the computer-assisted passenger pre-screening system, in other words known as CAPS. CAPS was an attempt to pre-screen passengers before coming to the airport. If selected by CAPS, the passenger's checked baggage would be screened for explosives. However, the individual would not undergo any additional screening. CAPS 2 was then invented. However, that was unsuccessful when TSA rolled out. So after years of development and extensive input from our stakeholders, the Secure Flight Program was introduced and developed and launched in 2009, which placed responsibility for passenger watch list matching with TSA as opposed to the airlines. During that time, both then the passenger and their checked baggage would have enhanced security measures applied to themselves. Fast forward 20 years, today our workforce is laser focused. Our technology is cutting edge, from computed tomography, X-ray machines, biometrics with our credential authentication technology, the liquid bottle scanners in our checkpoints, and our introduction of K9 program with K9 enhanced screening, advanced imaging technology, and the development of the Transportation Security Officer Basic Training Class, now conducted at the Federal Law Enforcement Academy in Glencoe, Georgia, which was just celebrated the 10-year anniversary, so go Fletzy. No more groups peering through and around individuals to learn, or thousands standing around. We've made such amazing achievements within our agency in really such a short period of time in existence. 20 years later brings me to my FSD stop here at BWI. When I was submitting my succession planning for the agency, I knew BWI was on the top of my list. Simply put, it was the very first federalized airport developed under the Aviation Transportation Security Act to become the counterterrorism agency we are today, and I knew I could relate to the front lines of this organization where it started all. For BWI, the frontline workforce is comprised with dedicated professionals who are committed to the mission in protecting the transportation security system to ensure freedom of movement of people and commerce. Of course, their love of crab cakes also. To my fellow colleagues and to the dedicated front lines, you make a difference every single day in the fight against terrorism. It's truly an honor to serve alongside you. Thank you. Now I have the distinct honor of introducing Mr. Paul Malandrino. Mr. Malandrino was the second Federal Security Director here at BWI, serving from 2002 to 2006. He is currently the Vice President and Airport Manager at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Before his time with TSA, Mr. Malandrino spent 30 years as an Air Force pilot flying F-111 fighter bomber aircraft and was the commanding officer of the 380th Bombardment Group in Plattsburgh, New York. We are so pleased to have with us today Paul Malandrino.
Well, thank you, Chris, and good morning. Thank you, Administrator Pekoski, for inviting me to join you this morning for this very special event. I'm really honored to be here, and it's great to see so many people in attendance. I was the acting airport manager at Washington Dulles International Airport on that tragic day of September 11th, 2001. I'll never forget the feelings I had when I walked from my office into the Airport Operations Center and saw that first aircraft hit the World Trade Center tower. My initial thought was, how could that pilot have hit this tower on such a clear day? After watching the second aircraft hit the tower, I realized we had to take action. And I recalled the senior staff and directed the evacuation of people from the terminals, aircraft, and the airfield. Later that morning, I drove out on the flight line, and my first thought, after realizing that I was the only person on that flight line, was, wow, this is an abandoned airfield, and just a few hours ago, it was a major international airport. This reminded me of the opening of the movie 12 O'Clock High with Gregory Peck, when the former administrative officer for a B-17 bomb group stationed in England during World War II returns to the base many years later and finds it abandoned. And he reminisced about how hectic it was during the war. Well, as time went by and as things settled down, I applied to become a federal security director with the Transportation Security Administration. And I was fortunate to be selected to be the federal security director at BWI. I arrived here on November 12th, 2002. Now, I learned many years ago, that people make a difference in any organization. And that was certainly true here at BWI. The BWI TSA team was making a difference. Their dedication and their interaction with our passengers and their willingness to go the extra mile made a difference. They did everything possible to ensure the safety and security of the traveling public, and they always did it without hesitation, and they always came through with flying colors. They were the ones who interacted on a daily basis with our passengers, 365 days of the year, no matter what the weather was or whether it was a holiday. I was very proud to have the privilege to work here with such a dedicated team of professionals. And thinking back to those early days brings back many fond memories. When I arrived, the office for our small staff was located in the building adjacent to the train station at the airport. Well, I felt it was necessary to be in the terminal, close to our team, close to the screening checkpoints. And thanks to Paul Wiedefeld, who was then the airport manager, he gave us space in the terminals, which worked out great. In those early days, we had to move all checked baggage by hand, from the ticket counter to the baggage chutes going to the baggage makeup area. Then we had to pick up the bags, put them through the X machine, and pick them back up to get them out. But as time went by, we installed some roller belts. That made it somewhat easier. Things got even better when we mechanized some of those belts, and that took a lot more of the lifting and moving out of the way. And finally, when Southwest opened up the new terminal, we had a state-of-the-art inline checked baggage system. Now, some of my fondest memories were when I walked around talking to our screening team and helped them at the screening checkpoints and the baggage screening areas when we were busy. I also enjoyed having Thanksgiving dinner with our folks down in the baggage screening areas. The food was delicious, and the stories were amazing. As our passenger numbers increased in those early years, and especially on holidays, we needed to use overtime to keep wait downs for our passengers going through screening. And I'm proud to say that I never had to mandate overtime. The team always stepped up to the challenge and without a complaint. I also enjoyed helping at the screening checkpoints and watching how our team used their friendly attitude to make our passengers feel at ease as they were waiting to go through screening. We even had some TSA staff that would sing and talk to the children to put them at ease as they were waiting to go through screening. And I also remember the smiley faces on Thanksgiving when I would bring donuts to the screening areas, but I'd always try to remember where I was the previous week so I wouldn't be hitting the same place week after week. But to my former BWI teammates, I was very proud to be a member of that great BWI TSA team, and I look back to my time with you as one of the most memorable and enjoyable years of my life. A lot of things have certainly changed since those early days at BWI, but some have not. What remains the same are the people of the Transportation Security Administration. Your dedication, professionalism, and commitment to ensure the safety and security of our passengers is as strong today as it was 20 years ago. And it's gratifying to see this very important mission, aided by amazing advances in technology and the continuing dedication of such a capable and talented team, is still moving forward. So thank you once again for giving me the honor and privilege to join you today, and I want to congratulate each one of you for the magnificent service you're providing to the millions of people who fly out of this lovely airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malandrino, for those powerful words. We appreciate that. I would now like to welcome to the podium our current TSA administrator, my administrator, David Pekoski. Administrator Pekoski is a former Vice Commandant of the United States Coast Guard and is currently the 7th Senate confirmed administrator I have had the privilege to serve under my TSA career. Under Administrator Pekoski's steady leadership, TSA has grown tremendously as an organization. Not only has he helped to continuously raise the security baseline for both aviation and surface transportation through close partnerships with our stakeholders, but he has made significant strides to make TSA a better place to work for more than 60,000 employees. The TSA strategy he championed and his administrators' intent has given TSA a clear roadmap on how the agency will continue to perform our vital mission in the future with vision, purpose, and accountability. Please welcome to the podium TSA Administrator David Pekoski.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that very kind introduction. And Paul, I really enjoyed your remarks. I think you hit the nail on the head. In this agency with 64,000 men and women who work incredibly hard day after day, what comes through to me each and every time I visit an airport, each and every time I interact with our staff at headquarters, is the quality and the professionalism of the TSA workforce. And when you consider that TSA is an agency now, and certainly a little bit lower during the pandemic, but now we'll screen over 2 million people on any given day. And we expect to see 3 million people screened over the course of this summer on some days. So our interaction with the public and the way we represent the United States government, the United States, and the Department of Homeland Security is truly remarkable, and it's done primarily by our frontline uniformed workforce. And I'm incredibly proud of them. Chris, I'm proud of you for taking on this position. You are the right person for this assignment. It's an incredibly responsible job to be the Federal Security Director of an airport the size of Baltimore Washington International Airport. And so I'm glad you chose this as your assignment and that we were able to have you come down here from Newark. This is going to be a great opportunity for you, and you're going to be able to really share your leadership with the entire team here, and also your leadership with all the passengers that go through our system. And Paul, your service has been incredible. 30-year service in the Air Force, and then when I think of the National Capital Region, you've served in each one of the airports in the National Capital Region in a significant leadership role. We're so glad that you were able to be here today, and your remarks were incredibly inspiring. I'd also like to welcome Representative John Sarbanes, who's the representative from the 3rd District in Maryland. Congressman, it's great to have you here. We really appreciate your support and your interest in TSA. And I'd also like to recognize Ricky Smith, who is the Executive Director of the Maryland Aviation Administration and the CEO of this airport. We have terrific relationships with this airport and terrific relationships across the entire system. So Ricky, thank you for being here and thank you for your partnership. In the audience, we have about 35 members of the TSA team here at BWI that were here in 2002 when we first federalized this airport. We'll recognize them throughout this ceremony, but the reason this ceremony is so important is when you think about TSA, TSA, as many of you know, was founded right after 9/11. When you think of the process of our government to be able to bring everybody together to make sure that a 9/11-like attack never occurred again in the United States, in 69 days after 9/11, the Congress passed and President Bush signed the Aviation and Transportation Security Act of 2001. That act was signed at Washington Reagan Airport by the President, and we had a 20th anniversary ceremony at that airport in the same place that the President signed the law on November 19th of this past year. Incredibly moving ceremony. But what that law required was that TSA federalize, in other words, convert to federalized screening every single airport in the country within a year. And you can imagine what a tall order that was and what it required in terms of focus of effort, in terms of dedication by the men and women that were asked to perform that mission and that responsibility. And this was the first airport that was federalized. This airport was federalized on the 30th of April of 2002. So it will be 20 years as of tomorrow. And what we wanted to do is to make a big deal about the federalization of this airport, because it was the first. When anything is the first, it's also the test bed for how we roll out the rest of the system, what technology we use, what things worked and what things did not. I wasn't in TSA in 2002. Chris was. He reflected on his experience. There are a number of other people in the audience that were part of TSA in 2001, 2002. The stories are incredible about what they did and what they accomplished in that period of time and how quickly they got to the point where we were able to federalize within that year across the entire system. But what I think about all the time, now 20 years later, and I remember as a passenger what aviation security was like when TSA first took over the responsibility. And it was significantly improved. And I think all the time, every single time I go through a screening checkpoint, and I go through them all the time, I just think of the progress that we've made, the progress we've made in terms of our workforce, the progress we've made in terms of the technology we use, the progress we've made in terms of the partnerships that we have. I'm very happy to say that at this point in time, now 20 years later, I would assess, and I have some ability to do that because I've been the administrator for almost 5 years, that our relationships with air carriers, with Customs and Border Protection, with local law enforcement agencies, with airports are at an all-time high. And I think that's critically important because the public really expects to have safe and secure travel and to have a pleasant experience as they're going about their business of getting to their destinations. And I think we have collectively done a terrific job with that. We've set the mark for it, and my goal on the part of TSA is just to keep those relationships strong, keep that partnership strong, and find ways that we can even do things better than we are today. When I think of the technology that we're using, and Paul mentioned some of it, Chris mentioned some of it, just a significant priority for us is, I mentioned the quality of the workforce and how proud I am of the men and women who serve in TSA. I have a responsibility as the administrator And my entire leadership team has a responsibility to make sure that we do everything we can to provide our transportation security officers, our inspectors, our federal air marshals, the very best tools to be able to get the job done. And we are in the process of doing that. We're basically building on the foundation that has been laid for years prior to all of us who are currently in positions. And as I think about it, when you come into BWI now, the way we validate the identity of a passenger is wholly different than what it was just 2 or 3 years ago. It's a process that provides real-time information on risk for every single passenger. It's a process now that is touchless, and it will soon be a process here in cooperation with the state of Maryland, where we will use digital identity to verify the identity of passengers, and that's going to be a significant improvement from a security perspective, and also a significant improvement from a passenger experience perspective. The other technology that we're deploying here is the brand new X-ray systems called computed tomography, or CT. It's just like, in terms of technology, just like the CAT scan X-rays that are used in medical facilities. Its ability to detect is much better than what it replaces. And for the officers, if you ask any officer that's used that technology, they will tell you that it gives them a tool that's wholly different than the tool that they were provided before. And so I'm pleased that we're able to continue to advance that forward. And then we just announced very recently improvements to our on-person screening, where we are now non-binary in our on-person screening, and we've improved our ability to detect anomalies and also to reduce the need for pat-downs in many cases. So significant progress in that regard. So what I'd like to do at this point is present on behalf of TSA and on behalf of the Administrator and the Leadership Council some recognition. So I'd first like to acknowledge the BWI team, and I'd like to invite Kristen Katz, Ira Ford, Nicole Walker, and Mike Monroe to the stage. Okay, now I want to present all of you with this plaque. It says, commemorating 20 years of dedicated service as the nation's first federalized airport, Transportation Security Administration, Baltimore, Washington International Thurgood Marshall Airport. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And now I would like to ask all current members of TSA to please stand. And what I'm going to ask each of you to do is to reaffirm your oath of office. And so if you could stand, please, and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I have entered. So help me God. Thank you and congratulations. And now I'd like to invite Mr. Ricky Smith forward. Ricky, as I mentioned earlier, is the Executive Director of the Maryland Aviation Authority, and he is also the Chief Executive Officer of this airport. And Ricky, I wanted to take this opportunity to bring you forward and to really just recognize you in front of the entire crowd here, in front of our entire team, to thank you most sincerely for, one, your leadership in aviation. I mean, you have a long career of leading airports and being at the forefront of advances in aviation safety and security. And to recognize on behalf of TSA and all of the TSOs that work at this airport, all of our inspectors, our K-9 teams, our federal security director staff here, the great partnership we have with your team. It is absolutely tremendous, and we sincerely appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been a real pleasure to be here. Just to say again how significant this day is. 20 years. 20 years ago, this airport was not federalized. It is federalized at this point. We have made significant safety and security improvements. We have got a world-class team. We provide world-class security in the United States, and we are indeed leading the world in security globally. And all of you contribute to that. I greatly appreciate your leadership, your professionalism, your dedication to our mission. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Ricky Smith again.
Good morning. Good morning. This is a great-looking group. We want to hear this great-looking group. So I'm so excited to be here to participate in one of the more special moments we've had here at the Maryland Aviation Administration and in the industry, quite frankly. And I want to thank Administrator Pekoski for allowing me to be a part of this program. BWI Marshall has enjoyed a very long, rich partnership with the TSA, and being a part of this program is just one more example of how that partnership has come together. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our good friend, Congressman Sarbanes, who is such a true partner for Maryland, and he fights on behalf of all the things that are not just important to the airport, but to the state of Maryland as well. He and the rest of our congressional delegation are true champions. And Paul Malandrino, it's been a long time. When you start something as large as the installation of a transportation security screening program nationally, but specifically here at BWI Marshall, the culture that you set off is critical. We talk a lot about the partnership we have between BWI Marshall and TSA here at BWI Marshall Airport. It started with Paul. I mean, his commitment to customer service, his commitment to cooperation and collaboration is something that we still enjoy today. So I want to thank you for that, because you really did set the tone. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to embarrass Chris too much, because he hasn't been here very long, but he's hit the ground running, has not skipped a beat, and as you said, Administrator, his leadership is already being felt, and we appreciate him being a part of the team. So again, thank you for your outstanding service. So as an airport, the most important function that we perform is working to ensure the safety and security of our passengers. It is the most fundamental thing we do. These values have consistently been our highest priority throughout our history, both at BWI Marshall and with the TSA. Over the past 20 years, literally since before day one, we have emphasized a strong collaboration and a strong partnership with the TSA, as I spoke to earlier. Here at BWI Marshall Airport, we are proud, and we're proud and honored to work closely with our federal partners to help establish the TSA. In those dark weeks and months following 9/11, it was a new era in transportation, as then U.S. DOT Secretary Mineta said. He joined national transportation leaders here several times before announcing in January of 2002 that BWI Marshall Airport would be the primary site to study aviation security operations, to test security techniques, and to train senior TSA managers. This airport was fully committed from the very beginning to support the creation of the TSA. We were proud to be a model, and with the eyes of the world watching, we wanted the TSA to succeed here and across the nation. Standing up the TSA in such a short period of time, as Administrator Pekoski mentioned, was an incredible, incredible undertaking, and we were proud to be a part of it. There were literally thousands of tiny details to consider and to work through, but we were proud to join the TSA in working through those many, many details on behalf of our country and to strengthen the aviation security system. And since that time, we have been proud to work with TSA to provide a safe, pleasant travel experience for our customers. The TSA's team and BWI Marshall throughout the past 20 years has been very professional. It has been a very positive relationship. Thank you again, FSD Chris, for your team, the great work that you do and your team does, to maintain a safe airport and providing excellent customer service. Before I conclude, which simply includes a thank you, I have to acknowledge former SSD Andrew Mishu, who's sitting right here, who's just an amazing, amazing friend to this airport family. We have some 12,000 employees here at the airport who all work to make sure that if you see something, you say something. And so they too deserve some credit in the rich history we have at this airport around airport security. So again, we've been proud to support TSA's vitally important mission since day one and before. So today, thank you again for being a part of this program, and congratulations on the first 20 years of service to our nation. Enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you, Ricky, for those kind words, and of course for your partnership from you and your team. We really appreciate it. If I can ask everybody to please rise for our honor guard, who's going to retire the colors. Thank you. Please be seated. So thank you once again to our colleagues from BWI for their contribution to today's event. And thank you to everybody for joining us today, both virtually and in person. I also want to have a special thanks to our Federal Air Marshal Service and Captain Aide and his team for the Maryland Transportation Authority Police for their security and partnership for today's event. TSA will continue to recognize dozens of national and local 20-year milestones across the rest of the year to honor TSA's past and rededicate ourselves to the future. This concludes our program. Thank you, everybody.